The galaxy was vast and filled with countless stars, planets, and civilizations. Some were peaceful, others warlike, but all lived under a fragile peace maintained by the Intergalactic Council. For centuries, this council had kept conflicts between alien races at bay, ensuring that no single species could dominate or destroy another. But now, something far darker loomed over the galaxy, a threat unlike anything anyone had ever faced before. It started as whispers among traders and explorers. Strange ships, sleek and organic-looking, appeared near the edges of explored space. They moved silently, leaving devastation in their wake. Entire colonies disappeared without a trace. Planets once teeming with life became barren wastelands overnight. The attackers were called the Void Spawn, biomechanical creatures that seemed to feed on everything: resources, energy, even living beings. No one knew where they came from or why they attacked, but everyone agreed on one thing: they were unstoppable. On Earth, news of the Void Spawn barely registered. Humanity's place in the galaxy was small and insignificant. Most advanced alien species saw humans as primitive, violent, and unpredictable. To them, Earth was a death world, a planet where survival required constant struggle against harsh environments, natural disasters, and even each other. Humans had spent centuries fighting wars, building empires, and tearing them down again. It wasn't until recently that humanity had ventured into space, and even then, their presence was limited to nearby star systems. But amidst this chaos, two siblings stood out. Ji-un was a brilliant engineer who could turn scraps of metal into functional machines. Her workshop in Seoul was cluttered with tools, half-finished projects, and salvaged parts from old spaceships. She worked tirelessly, often losing track of time as she tinkered with gadgets and gizmos. Despite her quiet demeanor, Ji-un had a sharp mind and an unshakable determination to solve any problem thrown her way. Her younger brother, Hyun-soo, was almost her opposite. Where Ji-un was calm and methodical, Hyun-soo was impulsive and restless. He had been a soldier once, serving in Earth's military during its early attempts to colonize Mars. But after growing disillusioned with orders and politics, he left to become a bounty hunter. Now, he traveled across the solar system, chasing criminals and collecting rewards. Hyun-soo was fearless, quick-witted, and skilled in combat, though his reckless nature sometimes got him into trouble. Despite their differences, Ji-un and Hyun-soo shared a deep bond. They had grown up together on Earth, surviving earthquakes, floods, and economic collapses. Their parents had died when they were young, forcing them to rely on each other. Over the years, they had learned to trust and support one another, even if they didn't always see eye to eye. One evening, while working late in her workshop, Ji-un stumbled upon something unusual. She had purchased a strange artifact from a shady dealer weeks ago, thinking it might contain valuable technology. At first glance, it looked like a chunk of black crystal, smooth and cold to the touch. But when she connected it to her computer, strange symbols flickered across the screen. Intrigued, she began running tests, trying to unlock its secrets. Hours passed before she realized what she was looking at. The artifact wasn't just a piece of junk, it was a communication device. Suddenly, the room lit up as a holographic figure materialized before her. It was tall, slender, and distinctly alien, with shimmering skin and eyes that glowed faintly. Its voice was calm, but urgent. "To all capable beings," the alien said, speaking in perfect galactic standard, the universal language used by most intelligent species. "The galaxy faces extinction. The Void Spawn are consuming entire systems. We have tried everything. If anyone can save us, it is you, Deathworlders." Ji-un froze, staring at the hologram in disbelief. Was this some kind of joke? Why would aliens reach out to humans, of all people? Before she could process what she had seen, the message ended, leaving her alone in the dimly lit workshop. Just then, the door burst open, and Hyun-soo walked in. His armor was scuffed, and his plasma pistol hung loosely at his side. "Hey, sis," he said, tossing his helmet onto a nearby table. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." Without a word, Ji-un replayed the message. Hyun-soo watched intently, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. When it finished, he let out a low whistle. "Well, that's new," he muttered. "Aliens asking for help? Must be desperate." Ji-un frowned. Do you think it's real? Hyun-soo shrugged. Could be. Could also be a trap. Either way, we can't ignore it. If these void spawn things are as bad as they say, Earth won't be safe for long. For hours, the siblings debated what to do. Ji-yeon argued that they should investigate further, gathering more information before making a decision. Hyun-soo, however, was eager to act immediately. We don't have time to sit around, he insisted. If we wait too long, it might already be too late. Eventually, they reached a compromise. Ji-eun would analyze the artifact further, searching for clues about its origin. Meanwhile, Hyun-soo would prepare their ship, the Iron Crane, for a journey into deep space. It wasn't much, an old freighter held together by duct tape and sheer willpower, but it was reliable enough to get them where they needed to go, they worked. Neither sibling could shake the feeling that their lives were about to change forever. They didn't know it yet, but their actions would shape the fate of the entire galaxy. All they knew was that they couldn't stand idly by while others suffered. After all, they were survivors. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was adapting to impossible situations. When dawn broke over Seoul, Ji-eun and Hyun-soo were ready. With supplies packed and engines roaring, the Iron Crane lifted off, heading toward the unknown. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and perhaps even glory. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget the names Ji-eun and Hyun-soo. The journey through space was long and quiet. Ji-eun sat in the cockpit of the Iron Crane, staring out at the endless sea of stars. Hyun-soo lounged in the co-pilot's seat, his boots propped up on the control panel as he cleaned his plasma pistol. The hum of the ship's engines filled the silence between them. Neither sibling spoke much during the trip, each lost in their own thoughts. Their destination was Zarnex 4, a neutral hub where representatives from various alien species gathered to discuss matters of galactic importance. It was also the place mentioned in the holographic message they had received. According to what little Ji-eun could decipher from the artifact, this was where the fight against the Void Spawn would begin, or end. As the Iron Crane approached Zarnex 4, the siblings were struck by its sheer size. The station was massive, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes and spires floating in the void. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked at its ports, ranging from sleek high-tech vessels to clunky freighters like their own. Bright neon lights illuminated the station's exterior, casting colorful reflections on nearby asteroids. Hyun-soo whistled softly. "Looks like a fancy mall for aliens," he said, leaning forward to get a better look. Ji-eun rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. "Let's just hope we don't stand out too much." They landed without incident and made their way into the station. Inside, the air buzzed with activity. Beings of every imaginable shape and size moved about, speaking in dozens of languages. Some were tall and slender, others short and stocky. A few floated above the ground, glowing faintly, while others walked on multiple legs or slithered along the floor. Despite the diversity, one thing was clear. Humans were not welcome here. Aliens glanced at Ji-eun and Hyun-soo with open curiosity or outright disdain. Many muttered under their breaths, their words translated into galactic standard by Ji-eun's earpiece. "Deathworlders," one sneered. "What are they doing here?" Another added, "Probably trying to sell junk again." Hyun-soo clenched his fists but forced himself to stay calm. He knew reacting would only make things worse. Instead, he focused on finding someone who could explain why they had been summoned. After some searching, they found themselves in a large chamber filled with holographic displays and maps of the galaxy. At the center stood an alien ambassador, named Vorthak, the same being who had delivered the message. He was taller than most of the other aliens, with shimmering blue skin and sharp, angular features. His presence commanded respect, even among the crowd of dignitaries surrounding him. Vorthak noticed Ji-eun and Hyun-soo immediately. "Ah, the humans," he said, his voice smooth yet tinged with urgency. "I see you've answered our call." "We're here," Ji-eun replied cautiously. "But we need more information. What exactly are we supposed to do?" Vorthak gestured to a nearby display showing images of destroyed planets and fleeing refugees. "The Void Spawn are relentless. They consume everything in their path: resources, energy, life itself. We have tried diplomacy, weapons, even biological agents, but nothing works. Your planet, Earth, has a reputation for surviving impossible conditions. Perhaps your unique perspective can help us find a solution." Hyun-soo crossed his arms. "So you want us to clean up your mess?" "It is not that simple," Vorthak admitted. "But if there is any chance of stopping the void spawn, it lies with beings like yourselves. Those who understand struggle and survival." Before Ji-eun or Hyun-soo could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A frantic voice echoed over the intercom. "Void spawn detected near Sector 12. All available forces report to defensive positions." Panic erupted around them. Aliens scrambled to arm themselves, rushing toward docking bays and assembly points. Vorthak turned to the siblings. "This is your first test. Join the coalition defending mining colony Delta 7. If you succeed, we may yet have hope." Without waiting for a response, he hurried away, leaving Ji-eun and Hyun-soo standing alone. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Hyun-soo grinned. "Guess we're going to war." Delta 7 was a small mining colony orbiting a dying star. Its surface was barren, dotted with extraction rigs and storage facilities. When Ji-eun and Hyun-soo arrived, the scene was chaotic. Alien soldiers ran back and forth, setting up barricades and calibrating weapons. Overhead, ships patrolled the skies, scanning for signs of the enemy. Ji-eun quickly realized that most of the defenses relied on advanced technology, energy shields, laser turrets, and automated drones. While impressive, these systems required precision and coordination, something the panicked defenders lacked. She frowned. "This won't work," she muttered. "We need something simpler, something unpredictable." Hyun-soo raised an eyebrow. "You thinking traps?" "Exactly." Working. Together, Ji-eun and Hyun-soo transformed the battlefield. Using spare parts salvaged from the iron crane, Ji-eun rigged explosives and magnetic fields to create makeshift traps. She planted mines disguised as rocks and set up tripwires connected to EMP generators. Meanwhile, Hyun-soo led a group of volunteers in fortifying key positions, using whatever materials they could find. When the void spawn finally arrived, they were met with chaos. The biomechanical creatures swarmed across the surface, their bodies shifting and reforming as they absorbed debris and energy. But instead of encountering organized resistance, they stumbled into Ji-eun's traps. Explosions erupted, sending shockwaves rippling through their ranks. Magnetic fields disrupted their movements, causing them to collide with each other. From a distance, Hyun-soo coordinated counterattacks, picking off isolated groups with precise shots from his plasma rifle. His leadership inspired the defenders, who rallied behind him despite their initial doubts about working with humans. Together, they pushed the void spawn back, forcing them to retreat into the void. When the battle ended, the survivors cheered. Many gathered around Ji-eun and Hyun-soo, congratulating them on their ingenuity and bravery. Even those who had doubted them earlier now looked at them with newfound respect. One alien, a towering insectoid warrior, clapped Hyun-soo on the shoulder, nearly knocking him over. "You fight well for a Deathworlder," it rasped. Though exhausted, Ji-eun couldn't help feeling a sense of accomplishment. For the first time, she saw how humanity's adaptability and resourcefulness could make a difference, not just for themselves but for others as well. But the victory came at a cost. The colony lay in ruins, its infrastructure crippled beyond repair. Refugees huddled together, clutching what little they had left. As Ji-eun and Hyun-soo walked among them, they felt the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. The galaxy was counting on them now, whether they liked it or not. Back aboard the Iron Crane, the siblings prepared for their next mission. They didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. The road to saving the galaxy would be long and difficult. Still, they faced it with determination and a shared belief that even the smallest actions could change the course of history. And so, with engines roaring and hearts full of resolve, they set off once more into the unknown. Word of Ji-eun and Hyun-soo's success at mining colony Delta 7 spread quickly. The unlikely heroes from Earth became a topic of discussion among alien races across the galaxy. Some were skeptical, dismissing their victory as luck or exaggeration. Others, however, saw potential in the humans' unorthodox methods and resilience. Slowly but surely, more beings began seeking them out, not just for advice but for leadership. It wasn't long before two new allies joined Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo. The first was Kalith, a member of the Threxian race. Threxians were reptilian humanoids with scaled skin that shimmered like polished metal. They were known for their strength and discipline, traits that made them natural warriors. Kalith stood tall, his muscular frame covered in armor, etched with intricate patterns. His eyes glowed faintly, giving him an almost otherworldly presence. Despite his intimidating appearance, he spoke with calm authority and carried himself with quiet confidence. The second newcomer was Sora, a Nisari medic. Unlike most aliens they had encountered, Sora wasn't humanoid. She belonged to an aquatic species, her body sleek and streamlined, covered in translucent scales that shifted, colors depending on her mood. Her large, expressive eyes held a depth of wisdom, and she communicated telepathically, her thoughts gentle yet firm. Though physically fragile compared to others, Sora possessed incredible healing abilities, capable of mending wounds and curing illnesses with a mere touch. Their meeting was anything but planned. Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo had been sent to investigate reports of void spawn activity near a remote asteroid belt. What they found instead was a group of refugees trapped inside a crumbling mining base. Structural supports were failing, air supplies were dwindling, and panic was spreading among the survivors. Without hesitation, Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo sprang into action. While Ji-Eun worked to stabilize the facility using spare parts and makeshift tools, Hyun-Soo led efforts to evacuate those who couldn't move on their own. That's when Kalith and Sora appeared. The Threxian warrior had been part of a scouting team sent to assess the situation, while Sora had accompanied a relief convoy delayed by void spawn attacks. Together, the four formed an uneasy alliance, combining their skills to save the stranded miners. Kalith used his brute strength to clear debris blocking escape routes, while Sora tended to the injured, soothing both physical pain and emotional trauma. By the time the evacuation was complete, the group had developed a mutual respect and a bond forged in fire. With the rescue mission behind them, the quartet decided to continue working together. Each brought something unique to the table. Ji-Yun's ingenuity ensured they always had the tools needed to adapt to any challenge. Hyun-Soo's combat prowess and quick thinking made him invaluable in battle. Kalith provided raw power and tactical insight, while Sora's healing abilities kept them alive when injuries would otherwise have been fatal. Their next task came soon enough. Intelligence gathered by Vorthak revealed clues about the void spawn's origin, a corrupted superstructure called the Nexus Core. Hidden deep within a black hole's event horizon, the core was believed to be the source of the biomechanical horrors, plaguing the galaxy. Destroying it might stop the void spread once and for all, but reaching it would require navigating some of the most dangerous regions of space. The journey tested their resolve in ways none of them anticipated. They traveled through asteroid fields teeming with pirates, crossed radiation zones that fried their ship's systems, and faced ambushes by hostile factions eager to claim the Nexus Core for themselves. Along the way, they encountered moral dilemmas that forced them to question their decisions. In one instance, they discovered a colony on the brink of collapse due to void spawn attacks. The colonists begged for help, but diverting resources to save them meant delaying their mission and possibly giving the void spawn more time to grow stronger. Ji-Yun argued for staying to assist, reminding everyone that every life mattered. "If we abandon these people, what's the point of saving the galaxy?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Hyun-Soo disagreed. "We can't save everyone," he countered. "If we don't focus on the bigger picture, there won't be a galaxy left to protect." Ultimately, they compromised. Ji-Yun devised a plan to fortify the colony using materials scavenged from nearby wreckage, buying the settlers enough time to evacuate. Hyun-Soo led a team to hold off the void spawn until the last transport departed. It was a costly decision. Several volunteers lost their lives during the defense, but it reinforced their commitment to balancing compassion with pragmatism. As they drew closer to the Nexus Core, tensions ran high. The black hole loomed ahead, its gravitational pull distorting light and space around it. The iron crane groaned under the strain, its engines pushed to their limits. Inside, the crew prepared for what lay beyond. Ji-eun pored over schematics and calculations, trying to anticipate every possible scenario. Hyun-soo sharpened his weapons, checking and rechecking his gear. Kalith meditated in silence, drawing strength from ancient Threxian rituals. Sora, meanwhile, focused on maintaining morale, offering words of encouragement whenever doubt crept in. When they finally entered the black hole's event horizon, reality itself seemed to warp. Time slowed. Colors shifted. Sounds echoed strangely, as if coming from another dimension. At the center of it all stood the Nexus Core, a colossal structure pulsating with dark energy. Its surface writhed with organic tendrils, merging technology and biology in horrifying harmony. It was beautiful and terrifying, a monument to creation gone horribly wrong. Inside, they discovered the truth. The Nexus Core hadn't been built by the Void Spawn, it had created them. Originally designed as a tool for terraforming barren planets, the core had malfunctioned centuries ago, twisting its purpose into destruction rather than renewal. Now it served no master, only feeding endlessly on matter and energy to sustain itself. Facing this revelation, Ji-eun realized the enormity of their task. Destroying the Nexus Core wouldn't just stop the Void Spawn, it would also mean erasing a piece of galactic history, a reminder of how even the noblest intentions could lead to catastrophe. But there was no other choice. If they failed, the entire galaxy would fall. As they prepared for the final assault, Ji-eun and Hyun-soo shared a rare moment of vulnerability. Sitting side by side in the ship's cramped mess hall, they reflected on how far they'd come since leaving Earth. "Do you ever wonder what Mom and Dad would think of us now?" Hyun-soo asked softly. Ji-eun smiled, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I think they'd be proud. We're doing what they taught us, to survive no matter what." Hyun-soo nodded, gripping her hand tightly. "Then let's finish this. For them, for Earth, for everyone." With renewed determination, the team moved forward, ready to face whatever awaited them in the heart of the Nexus Core. Though fear lingered in their hearts, they knew they weren't alone. Together, they had become something greater than the sum of their parts, a symbol of hope in a galaxy on the brink of despair. And as long as they stood united, the Void Spawn, and the darkness they represented, would never prevail. The Nexus Core loomed before them, a monstrosity of twisted metal and pulsating organic tissue. Its surface shimmered with an eerie glow, shifting between hues of red, black, and electric blue. The air inside was thick with static energy, making every step feel heavier than the last. Ji-eun, Hyun-soo, Kalith, and Sora moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous structure. Each of them carried the weight of what they were about to do, but none more so than Ji-eun. As the team entered the central chamber, the core revealed its true nature. Massive tendrils snaked across the walls, pulsing rhythmically like a living heart. In the center floated a massive sphere, glowing with an intense light that seemed almost alive. This was the heart of the Nexus Core, the source of the Void Spawn's power. It radiated both beauty and terror, a creation meant to bring life but now consumed by death. Ji-eun approached it carefully, her mind racing. She knew what she had to do. Using her engineering skills, she could reprogram the core to self-destruct, ending the threat of the Void Spawn forever. But the process would be dangerous and irreversible. If something went wrong, there would be no second chances. Hyun-soo stepped up beside her, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "You sure you can handle this?" he asked, gripping his plasma rifle tightly. "I think so," Ji-eun replied, though her hands trembled as she pulled out her tools. "But I'll need time." Kalith nodded, stepping forward to stand guard. His armor gleamed faintly in the strange light, and his tail flicked with anticipation. "We'll hold them off," he said, his deep voice unwavering. "Do what you must." Sora stayed close to Ji-eun, her telepathic presence offering quiet support. "I'm here if you need me," she whispered, her thoughts warm and reassuring. With that, Ji-eun got to work. She connected her device to the core, bypassing layers of corrupted code and ancient safeguards. Her fingers flew over the controls, sweat dripping down her face as alarms blared around her. The core resisted her efforts, sending out bursts of energy that crackled through the air. Sparks flew from her equipment, forcing her to improvise, with whatever she had on hand. Outside, the battle raged. Void spawn poured into the chamber, drawn by the disturbance within the core. They came in waves, twisting biomechanical horrors that screeched and lashed out with razor-sharp claws. Hyun-Soo fired shot after shot, his aim precise even as exhaustion set in. Kaleth charged into the fray, his massive frame smashing through enemies with brute force. Sora darted between them, healing wounds and shielding allies with barriers of pure energy. Despite their best efforts, the tide began to turn against them. The Void Spawn were relentless, overwhelming even the strongest defenses. Hyun-Soo took a hit to his shoulder, the impact knocking him to the ground. Blood seeped through his armor as he struggled to rise, gritting his teeth against the pain. Sora rushed to his side, her touch cool and soothing as she mended his wound. "Stay with us," she urged, her voice firm. Meanwhile, Ji-Yoon fought her own battle. The core's systems were far more complex than she had anticipated, and every moment felt like an eternity. Lines of alien code scrolled across her screen, each one a puzzle to solve. Her hands shook, not just from fatigue, but from fear. If she failed, everything they had sacrificed would be for nothing. "Come on," she muttered under her breath, her eyes scanning the data furiously. Then finally she found it, a way to overload the core's main reactor. With trembling fingers, she initiated the sequence, watching as countdown timers appeared on her screen. 30 seconds, 29, 28, it's done, she shouted, turning to the others. "We have to get out of here." But escape wasn't going to be easy. The Void Spawn had surrounded them, cutting off their path back to the Iron Crane. Hyun-Soo raised his weapon again, determination burning in his eyes. "Go!" he yelled at Ji-Yoon. "We'll cover you!" "No!" Ji-Yoon protested, tears streaming down her face. "I won't leave without you!" Before anyone could argue further, Kaleth roared, charging headfirst into the swarm of Void Spawn. His body glowed with a faint golden light, a sign that he was tapping into his species' ancient combat rituals. With each swing of his blade, he cleared a path for the others, buying them precious seconds. Sora used the opening to create a temporary shield, enveloping the group in a bubble of energy. "Run!" she urged, her voice strained with effort. "I can only hold this for so long." Ji-Yoon hesitated, torn between staying and running. But then Hyun-Soo grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the exit. "Move!" he barked, his tone leaving no room for argument. They sprinted through the chaos, dodging attacks and leaping over fallen debris. Behind them, Kaleth continued to fight, his movements growing slower as injuries mounted. Sora faltered, her shield flickering as the strain became too much. Still, they held on, giving their friends a chance to escape. Finally, Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo reached the Iron Crane. As they boarded, Hyun-Soo turned back, searching for the others. Through the viewport, he saw Kaleth fall to one knee, his armor cracked and bloodied. Sora stood beside him, her body glowing faintly as she poured all her remaining strength into keeping the Void Spawn at bay. "We can't leave them," Hyun-Soo shouted, lunging toward the hatch. Ji-Eun grabbed him, holding him back with surprising strength. "If we go back, we die too," she cried, her voice breaking. "They gave us this chance, we can't waste it." For a moment, Hyun-Soo froze, torn between duty and loyalty. Then, reluctantly, he nodded. "Let's finish this," he said, his voice heavy with grief. Inside the ship, Ji-Eun powered up the engines while Hyun-Soo manned the weapons. As the Iron Crane lifted off, they watched the Nexus core explode in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled outward, consuming the Void Spawn and everything else in its path. For a brief moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. When the light faded, silence filled the void. The Nexus core was gone, and with it, the threat of the Void Spawn. But the cost weighed heavily on Ji-Yoon and Hyun-Soo. Kaleth and Sora had stayed behind, sacrificing themselves to ensure the mission's success. Their bravery had saved not just the two siblings, but the entire galaxy. Back aboard the Iron Crane, the mood was somber. Ji-Yeon sat in the cockpit, staring blankly at the stars. Hyun-Soo leaned against the wall, his head bowed. Neither spoke. There were no words that could ease the ache in their hearts. Eventually, Hyun-Soo broke the silence. They believed in us, he said softly, even when we didn't believe in ourselves. Ji-eun nodded, wiping away her tears. And because of them, we did it. We stopped the void spawn. The journey back to Zarnex 4 was quiet. When they arrived, the station buzzed with activity. News of the Nexus Core's destruction had spread quickly, and aliens gathered to celebrate the end of the void spawn threat. Cheers erupted as Ji-eun and Hyun-soo disembarked, their faces etched with exhaustion and sorrow. Vorthak approached them, his expression grave yet grateful. "You have done the impossible," he said, bowing his head in respect. "The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay." Hyun-soo shook his head. "It wasn't just us," he replied. "Others gave their lives so we could succeed." Among the crowd, stories of Kalith and Sora spread quickly. The Threxian warrior and Nisari medic became legends, symbols of courage and sacrifice. Their names were spoken with reverence, ensuring that their memory would live on. For Ji-eun and Hyun-soo, the road ahead was uncertain. They had saved the galaxy, but the scars of their journey ran deep. Yet, amidst the pain, there was also hope. They had proven that even the smallest actions could change the course of history, and that humanity, often dismissed as primitive and violent, had earned its place among the stars. As they prepared to return to Earth, Ji-eun looked out at the vast expanse of space. Somewhere out there, Kalith and Sora's spirits lingered, watching over the galaxy they had helped save. And though the siblings grieved their loss, they knew one thing for certain. The fight for survival never truly ended. But as long as people like them stood together, united by courage and compassion, the galaxy would always have a chance. With renewed resolve, Ji-eun and Hyun-soo set their sights on the future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever dared to dream of a better tomorrow. The celebrations on Zarnex 4 were unlike anything Ji-eun and Hyun-soo had ever seen. The station was alive with music, lights, and laughter, a stark contrast to the somber mood aboard the Iron Crane. Aliens of all shapes and sizes gathered in the central plaza, their voices rising in cheers and chants. Holographic displays showed images of the Nexus Core's destruction, replaying the moment when the void spawn threat had been wiped out. For the first time in years, hope filled the galaxy. Ji-eun and Hyun-soo stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling out of place, despite the adoration surrounding them. They had been invited to speak at the ceremony honoring their bravery, but neither felt much like celebrating. Their hearts were heavy with the loss of Kalith and Sora, whose sacrifices had made victory possible. Even amidst the joy, their absence loomed large. Vorthak approached them, his shimmering blue skin glowing faintly under the station's neon lights. "You should join the others," he said gently. "Your presence means a great deal to them." Hyun-soo shook his head, his voice low and weary. "We didn't do this alone," he replied. "Kalith and Sora deserve the credit as much as we do." Vorthak nodded solemnly. "Their names will be remembered alongside yours, but don't deny yourself this moment. You've earned it." Reluctantly, Ji-eun and Hyun-soo stepped forward, climbing onto a raised platform where leaders from various alien races awaited them. The crowd fell silent as they took their places, eyes fixed on the humans who had once been dismissed as insignificant. Ji-eun glanced at Hyun-soo, silently urging him to speak first. Hyun-soo cleared his throat, gripping the edge of the podium tightly. "We're not heroes," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "We're just survivors. Like everyone else here, we fought because we had no other choice, and we couldn't have done it without help. From our friends, from strangers, and from those who gave everything to make sure we succeeded." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces before continuing. "Kalith and Sora taught us what true courage looks like. They reminded us that even in the darkest times, there's always light if you're willing to fight for it. This victory belongs to them as much as it does to us." The crowd erupted into applause, many raising their hands or tentacles in salute. Ji-eun stepped up next, her expression calm but resolute. "We came here thinking we were alone," she said, her voice soft yet clear. "But we learned that survival isn't about being stronger than everyone else. It's about working together, even when it feels impossible. That's how we saved the galaxy. Not just humanity, but all of us. Her words struck a chord, earning cheers and nods of agreement from the assembled aliens. For the first time, humans were seen not as outsiders or primitives, but as equals, beings, capable of great courage and ingenuity. It was a turning point, one that would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy forever. After the ceremony, Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo retreated to a quiet corner of the station. Exhaustion weighed heavily on them, both physically and emotionally. They sat side by side, watching as fireworks exploded in bursts of color outside the windows. Despite the celebration, neither felt truly at peace. "What happens now?" Ji-Eun asked quietly, breaking the silence between them. Hyun-Soo shrugged, leaning back against the wall. "I guess we go home. Back to Earth." "And then what?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know. Rebuild, I suppose. Try to figure out what comes next." Ji-Eun nodded, though her mind raced with questions. Saving the galaxy had changed them in ways they were only beginning to understand. They had faced unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger, but also scarred. Could they really return to their old lives after everything they had been through? If reading her thoughts, Hyun-Soo placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out," he said firmly. "Together, just like always." A small smile tugged at Ji-Eun's lips. "Yeah, together." The journey back to Earth was long and reflective. As the iron crane soared through the stars, Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo spent hours talking about the future. They dreamed of rebuilding their workshop, using the knowledge they had gained to create new technologies that could benefit humanity. They imagined traveling the galaxy again, exploring distant worlds and meeting new species. And they vowed to honor Kaleth and Sora's memory by continuing to fight for a better tomorrow, not just for themselves, but for everyone. When they finally landed on Earth, they were greeted by a hero's welcome. News of their deeds had spread across the planet, sparking pride and unity among its people. Cities lit up with celebrations, and monuments were erected in their honor. Yet, despite the accolades, Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo remained humble. They knew their actions hadn't been about fame or glory. They had simply done what needed to be done. The weeks that followed, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Ji-Eun returned to her workshop, designing tools and machines inspired by the technology they had encountered during their journey. Her creations quickly gained attention, leading to partnerships with scientists and engineers eager to push humanity's boundaries further. Hyun-Soo, meanwhile, found himself drawn to teaching. He shared his experiences with young soldiers and bounty hunters, passing on the lessons he had learned about leadership, teamwork, and resilience. Though their lives were busy, Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo never forgot the galaxy they had saved or the friends they had lost. On quiet nights, they would sit together beneath the stars, gazing up at the constellations that marked their journey. Sometimes they talked about Kaleth and Sora, imagining what they might say if they were still here. Other times, they simply sat in silence, finding comfort in each other's presence. Years passed, and humanity's role in the galaxy continued to grow. Thanks to Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo's efforts, Earth became a respected member of the Intergalactic Council, contributing ideas, resources, and innovations to projects aimed at preventing another catastrophe like the Void Spawn. Humans were no longer seen as Deathworlders to be feared or dismissed. They were recognized as resilient, resourceful, and compassionate beings capable of achieving greatness. One evening, as Ji-Eun and Hyun-Soo stood on a hill overlooking Seoul, they reflected on how far they had come. The city below sparkled with light, a testament to humanity's progress. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, reminding them of the vast universe waiting to be explored. "You think we'll ever go back out there?" Ji-Eun asked, gesturing toward the sky. Hyun-Soo grinned, his eyes shining with determination. "Of course. There's still so much to see, so much to do. Besides," he added with a chuckle, "someone has to keep proving those aliens wrong." Ji-Eun laughed, shaking her head. "You never change, do you?" "Nope," he replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And neither do you." As they stood there, bathed in the glow of Earth's lights and the promise of the stars, Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo knew one thing for certain. Their story wasn't over. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, and they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had proven that even the smallest actions could change the course of history, and that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its power, but in its ability to adapt, survive, and hope. And so, with hearts full of determination and eyes set on the horizon, Ji-Yun and Hyun-Soo prepared to write the next chapter of their journey. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them, not as individuals, but as part of something greater, a legacy of courage, sacrifice, and unity that would inspire generations to come.